Hey guys, happy Easter from Fire of the Spirit YouTube. Today's topic is the resurrection. The resurrection of Christ was his greatest miracle because it revealed his divinity in three ways. It was a miracle unexplained by science, it was the fulfillment of the prophecy, and it preached the gospel of resurrection, which converted the entire world to Christianity. All of my information has come from this book by Father Lau, Catholic Apologetics. And if you'd like to see the entire article, you can get that through Tan Publishers and look it up yourself. Christ himself predicted his own death and resurrection, which no man has ever done before. No one can ever predict the exact moment of their death. And Christ said to his disciples, "The Son of Man shall be betrayed to the chief priests and the scribes, and they shall condemn him to death, and deliver him to the Gentiles to be mocked and scourged and crucified. And on the third day he shall rise again." This is from Matthew 20 through 18, verse 19. And when Christ died, all of his enemies, being the Sanhedrin, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees, asked the Romans to place guards in front of the tomb, which they did, lest perhaps his disciples came and steal him away and say to the people, "He has risen from the dead." Matthew 27 through 63 and 64. Christ died to show his love for us, and he rose from the dead to show his divine power. This power is controlled only by God. No, science cannot raise a man from the dead. No mere human or magician can raise a man from a dead. It has never been done. You may be able to revive someone who seems to be dead, but that is only through the permission of God, and it only happens once in a while. Christ's resurrection was also witnessed by many people. There were the 3 women at the tomb. There were the 12 apostles. There were all of his disciples who saw him ascend into heaven, and those disciples who saw him on the road to Emmaus, and those who saw him in the upper room with the apostles. All of these people could not have been crazy, and if they were all hallucinating, they would not have seen the same hallucination. It wouldn't have been exact. It may have been similar, but it could not have been the same hallucination. And this in itself is proof of the resurrection. Many people try to explain away the empty tomb by saying the body was stolen, or they made a mistake when they were trying to find the tomb, or Christ was never buried, or he swooned and was not dead, recovered and walked away. These can be completely contradicted by the fact that all of Christ's apostles, excepting one, died for their belief in the resurrection. And even St. John, who was not killed for this belief, suffered greatly for it. And who would suffer and offer themselves to die for a falsehood? I wouldn't die for a falsehood. Would you die for a lie? More specifically, if the body was stolen, how would the disciples have managed that? There were Roman guards guarding the tomb, and they would not have fallen asleep. And if they did, they would have woken up. They had a gigantic stone in front of the tomb. How could they have rolled that away quietly? And the guards would have been trained not to fall asleep. They are Roman guards. If they fall asleep, they were going to be killed. Then, the mistake in finding an empty tomb. Several people went to the tomb. You'd think one of them would have said, I don't think this is where we buried him. There were the 3 women. There was Joseph of Arimathea, whose tomb it was. There was Peter and John. John, who's very level-headed throughout the entire Gospels. One of them would have realized, this doesn't look like the same tomb. Then there's the excuse that Christ was never buried but dumped in a ditch. This would lead back to the fact that people saw him afterwards. His apostles, his disciples, they all saw him. They could not have all hallucinated, and they would not have all lied because they all died for what they believed. Finally, there's the excuse that Christ swooned in the tomb, woke up, removed the stone by himself, and walked out of the tomb. This is completely far-fetched. Christ was scourged before his crucifixion. He had to carry his cross in that condition, and he was crucified. And the Romans knew how to crucify. It says in the gospel, and it is a historical fact, that they would break the legs of their prisoners who were being crucified in order to kill them. With Christ, though, they thrust a lance through his body, and out came water and blood, showing that he only had a small amount of blood left in his body, and that he went under excruciating pain and torture. Jesus could not have swooned. And finally, he could not have moved the stone from the inside. And in his state of suffering, he would not have been able to move that heavy stone and get away from the Roman guards without being seen. If you would like to read more about the resurrection of Christ, you can find more information in the Father Lau text and on newadvent.org and in the Bible. Just open it up to the New Testament and the first 4 Gospels, and each has their own account of Christ's resurrection. This has been a Fire of the Spirit YouTube episode. I'm Cindy, and I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. And have a wonderful, happy Easter.